Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Postgrad webinar session. Today, brought to you by UCL in the UK, one of the most prestigious and well sought after university program providers in the UK. Today, we are going to be hearing from the School of Management, which is Future Proof Your Career with Creative Leadership. We're joined today by Jennifer Lynch, who will be taking you through the next 30 to 45 minutes. If you have any questions, we will have a Q&A at the end. So pop your questions in the Q&A box. If you do put it in the chat, feel free to say hi, where you're from. It'd be lovely to see so many different nationalities, so many different cultures and people. So feel free to pop that in the chat. And if you have any questions in the Q&A box, please, that's where we'll be picking them up for the Q&A. And we also have a UCL admissions manager in the background answering any questions that you might have. Today's date is the 18th of March. If you are watching this on demand, please factor in that some of the things that you might hear today might differ if you are watching for a different academic year or something else. So there will be a contact us page later where you can reach out directly to the team at UCL, whether it be the academic or anyone else. If anyone has any questions, please put it in the chat. But I'm going to hand over to you now, Jennifer, and we'll see you very shortly.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Gareth. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And yes, indeed, it would be lovely if you just wouldn't mind just sharing where you're joining us from in the chat. It gives us a sense of, where in the world everyone is, and it's a nice chance to get a sense of the global spread, which is part of the appeal of a UCL degree. This session today is about future-proofing your career with creative leadership. And I'll start by introducing myself. So I am an associate professor of creativity and innovation at UCL. My PhD was in the psychology of creativity at work. I shared some of that expertise in a TEDx talk. I've previously been a management consultant for McKinsey and Company based in Dubai, and did my MBA at Columbia University. This program, I've so enjoyed helping to design this MSc in creativity, innovation, and leadership. And it's, in a way, the sort of what I wish my MBA would have been. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit. In the next 30 to 45 minutes, we will share, we'll discuss like a case for creative leadership. We'll talk a bit about integrating research and practice. I'll give you an example of the kinds of topics that will be covered in our programs. Hopefully something you can use in your work in the next few weeks even. Then we'll shift into a program overview, talk a bit about the kinds of career paths that people will follow, and end with a bit of details about admissions, and then we'll leave plenty of time for Q&A. Before I dive in, I'm just checking to see that people are from, we've got good people from London, from China, India, Nigeria, Taiwan. Lovely. Yeah, welcome to everyone. From California, Amsterdam, lovely. All right. Jude from Saudi Arabia. Welcome everyone. Okay, so the case for creative leadership. Why are we making a master's degree in this topic? Why, even if you don't come and join us for the master's, why is it something that can help you future-proof your career? Well, we think about this intersection, right? If we have creativity without a leadership lens, you end up with lots of ideas, but with little traction. And if you have leadership without creativity, you end up more in the realm of management, just more of the same. And that's absolutely fine, these incremental benefits. But the intersection is where we can experience this kind of catalyzing innovation. And I think it used to be that in a lot of different industries, the creatives, quote unquote, they didn't have to worry about business, and they could just focus on doing the creative work. And the people on the business side didn't have to worry about creativity. And they could kind of outsource that to the creative people and just focus on the bottom line. And I really think that with the amount of disruption that we're experiencing, technological change, all this uncertainty, those days are over. And when I share that framing with the creative leaders that I'm talking to, that really resonates. That the creatives now more are being expected to have an enterprise mindset, to be able to think about the business implications of their ideas. And people on the business side are, it's not enough to just keep rehashing the same old or copy pasting best practices from other people. There is this pressure to say, okay, what are you bringing that's creative, new, different, going to be the game changer, to really move the needle. And we see this demand reflected in what the industry is saying. So LinkedIn has said creativity is the number one most in demand skill that employers are looking for. The World Economic Forum says as AI rises, so does the need for more human creativity. And creative thinking and leadership and social influence are among the top 10 fastest growing skills, as estimated by the World Economic Forum, in within the next few years. And in the bottom right corner, you see there was a survey of CEOs. It's that IBM did, and creativity came out as the most important leadership quality that these global CEOs saw, which is quite dramatic. I mean, I think there's a lot of focus on analytics and data, and that is important too. But the distinguishing factor, now that AI is taking over a lot of these more quantitative type skills, we're seeing that creativity is the game changer. Creativity is the point of differentiation, and we need leaders who can think beyond these conventional solutions and drive transformative change. Peter Drucker, a master management scholar, said the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I think that's really the spirit in which this degree is designed, that students will learn how to spot opportunities that other people don't see, and also then learn how to turn those opportunities into real value creation. So what's one example? Obviously, there's a huge body of research about creativity in organizations, and what does it take to do that well? I want to talk about one specific topic, and I'm going to start with this story about Google. So they wanted to understand what made Google teams that were succeeding the best, achieving the most creative outcomes, the strongest collaboration. And they did an internal massive research project, 2 years of data collection, 180 teams, 250 items of survey data, which is, imagine how long it would take to fill out that survey. They called it Project Aristotle because Aristotle is the one who coined the term that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And I'm curious if, let's see if I can open the chat. Are there any guesses about what was the factor that was most important to helping teams be creative, um, and successful? I'm curious if there's any guesses in the chat. You think, oh, what would make a team at Google successful? Yeah, diversity, no blame culture, collaboration, listening. Yeah, good guesses. Decentralization and ownership. Yeah, a reference to Google's the 20% rule that they used to have. Culture, time to reflect and develop. Learning from previous mistakes. Great. Yes. Yeah, I love creative leadership. Yeah. Well, in a way, we're focusing on a very specific skill, and it's a lot of what you guys are naming are included in this feature that they found of the top performing, most creative teams. And it's something called psychological safety. So it was this idea that team members, they feel safe to take risks and to be vulnerable in front of each other. Now, vulnerable not in the sense of oversharing and you know, um, sharing the things aren't relevant to work, but psychological safety is thought of in these four different domains. So, an attitude to risk taking, is it permissible to make a mistake, right? Can we try something new and maybe we fail? The second, open conversation, um, that difficult and sensitive topics that we can discuss them openly, right? Third is a willingness to help, so that team members can ask for help when they need it and they know that it will be available to them. And inclusivity and diversity, that people can be themselves and feel welcomed, right? That um, there's an inclusive attitude that lets people share their information, um, that share the information that they have and take that risk. And the research on this topic of psychological safety, it originates from this Harvard professor, Amy Edmondson. And way back when, in the 90s, she was doing a research project in hospitals. And she was looking at what made the medical teams, the what differentiated the most successful ones. And she ran the numbers, she gathered all the data. And when she looked at the results, she was very confused because what the data told her is that the best performing teams made more mistakes than the worst performing teams. And she was scratching her head about this because at first glance, it seemed like it didn't make sense, right? Surely it must be the opposite, that the best performing teams would be comprised of the most competent, expert doctors and nurses. And so why would the data show that they're making more mistakes? And she sat with it and sat with it and sat with it. And then she says it came to her kind of like an aha, that what if the best performing teams were basically being more honest about their mistakes? They were being more open about their mistakes. Whereas the worst performing teams were actually hiding and suppressing that information. And that's the trail that led her on this path of defining the construct of psychological safety and studying it in a wide range of different applications. There's been a wide body of research that shows psychological safety has a number of benefits, but it is especially critical for creativity. And why is that? Well, we think, a manager or a leader might think, well, I just need my team, I need my people to come up with more creative ideas. And so they might, run different kinds of workshops, or they might they might design some elaborate system where, employees can propose ideas and it's tracked, or they might have a big hackathon um, but the reality is that if no matter how many ideas people have, and often people have good ideas, but it's more common that they're not actually sharing those ideas with the higher ups in their organization, with their manager or the more senior colleagues, because there's this fear that, oh, if I um, if I point out a problem, that needs a solution, is somebody going to get defensive and then shoot the messenger? If I criticize someone else's idea, to say, oh, I think there's a better way of doing something, am I going to get the backlash? Or even in selecting an idea, if my boss gives an idea and I choose a different idea, are they going to take it personally? All of that can really inhibit people's ability to share their ideas, their creative ideas, and then it becomes this huge waste of creative potential. So the what can you do, right? There's a lot that you can do, and this topic of psychological safety, it will be covered. It could be covered in much more depth, but I'll leave you with just one thing today to think about, um, which is when you think about psychological safety in your teams, think about this question: what is the ratio of good news to bad news that I'm hearing? And there isn't one right number because every situation is different. But if you are only hearing good news, if when you ask how people are doing, it's like, it's all good, then probably the psychological safety is not where it needs to be. right? Because, and this is a common misconception about psychological safety that I want to make sure that you all understand. We can think, when we hear the word safety, we can equate that with comfort. Like, oh, it's a really comfortable, kind of insulated environment. And that's not what psychological safety is. Psychological safety is where there's permission to be candid, there's permission to be direct, not in a way that's, accusing or harmful or harsh, but just in a way that's honest, right? We can talk about the elephant in the room. And I remember when I was working at McKinsey, one of my managers in our very first meeting, he said, I take trust really seriously. And he's like, if, not if, but when you make a mistake, I will have your back. But I need you to be honest with me. I need you to tell me in advance so I can help deal with it. I don't want to be surprised. And when he told me that, it helped me so much to know where he stood. And it gave me the permission to say, a few months later, when I kind of dropped the ball on something and it wasn't clear whether, maybe the client forgot about it and so it wouldn't be an issue and maybe I didn't need to raise it. But him having said that meant I was like, no, I have to tell him. And so I raised it to him, I told him, and he was so, like, honestly, like, impressed and grateful that I had shared it with him. It turned out to be a non-issue, but the fact that I had raised it, I was surprised at the moment, in that moment, that by sharing a mistake that I made, that I could actually build trust with my manager. But that's the beauty of psychological safety. So as you go forward in your own experience of leading teams in different contexts, I want you to think about how much are you projecting certainty versus uncertainty. So there's a temptation to, when we're in a position of leadership, to project certainty, right? We think that this is what's going to make us inspiring and motivating. And it is important to have certainty about some things, right? Certainty about the values, certainly a certainty about kind of an overall vision. But if you're projecting too much certainty, it it has an impact, a negative impact on psychological safety. Because what happens is people think, well, if you already have the answer, then I'm not going to share something that's different than that. And so if you can communicate different forms of uncertainty to your team, things like, you know, this is, this could go in a few different ways, right? Or this could go in many different ways, right? Or you might say the uncertainty in the sense of this is going to be difficult. Like, we're going to have to climb a big mountain and figure out how to navigate this new terrain. We're doing something that we've never done before, right? These are things that research has shown can help help increase psychological safety and then invite people to share more creative ideas. So hopefully that gives you a research-backed tip that you can implement in your work going forward. So I'll pause and just have a quick glance through the chat if there's anything. Okay, yeah, great. So shifting gears to talk you through a little bit about the MSc in Creativity, Innovation, and Leadership. So this program is quite unique for a range of different reasons. We're really focused on interdisciplinary learning, and we're grounded in world-leading research. UCL is a center of excellence globally for research in creativity and innovation. We'll be drawing on psychology, organizational behavior, leadership strategy, design thinking. You'll get the rich benefit and cross-pollination from these different disciplines. The learning, you can't learn creativity from a textbook. So it will be very experiential, the way that the program is designed. Lots of projects based on real world challenges. We'll be dealing with case studies from real life organizations, and you'll have a chance to work with challenges articulated by organizations, including from our advisory board, which I'll share a little bit more about that later. There's a creative leadership program that's built in where you'll be working one-on-one with a leadership coach. You'll have in peer coaching groups, we'll be going on a leadership retreat. And we'll have leadership workshops on Wednesdays throughout the term where you'll really be pushed to understand yourself better, understand your style, your strengths, your values, your vision, and have that extra support so that you have clarity in what you want to get out of the program, where you want it to take you, and also that you're set up for the next chapter of your leadership journey. We are, of course, based in London, which is one of the most creative capitals in the world. You'll have opportunities that has implications for the kinds of guest speakers that will come into the classroom and share their expertise. It's the kinds of events and networking events that you can go to, whatever interest you're excited about. This is a place where you can learn about that. And we'll be organizing a student-run, industry-facing conference on the future of creativity, which will be a way of reaching out to people that you want to network with and build that larger community in London. But we're not only confined to London, it's a global network. So you'll join a diverse cohort and become part of this alumni community of UCL more broadly, and the School of Management, which has representation all over the world. And in addition, the School of Management has a very strong careers support team in place, which I think is a differentiator. So what will you learn? So there's 4 broad categories. So creative and critical thinking, really understanding the approaches that help to get those creative ideas coming, leadership, collaboration, and communication, understanding the science behind human-centered leadership, managing conflict, fostering trust. Then there's a piece around innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, understanding sort of the landscape and the trends in creative industries, how to capitalize on those, and then a piece around diversity, inclusion, and employee well-being. So as a leader, it's essential to have awareness of these topics and in order to make decisions that impact potentially not only just your team, but as you grow in your career, entire organizations. A master's degree, it should, someone gave me this advice when I was considering my MBA, and I think it was good advice. They said, this degree should yield dividends every year for the rest of your life. And it is a big investment, but when you think about it like that, then it makes sense, and that's our intention in the design, that you will continue to receive benefits from this program throughout your career. I have convened an advisory board to help design the curriculum. They will be meeting multiple times a year with me, but they will also be coming to speak and engage with students, and also to available for mentoring as well. So we have a partner at McKinsey's London office. We have a partner manager at YouTube. Rachel's head of enterprise events at Adobe. She was previously in marketing for many years. A creative director at Ogilvy, the advertising agency. IDEO is a design consultancy, and then at Amazon Studios, the content strategy. That is maybe a good segue into the career paths. So there will be this program. We're really open to a diverse range of profiles of people coming in, and everything from a pianist to a chemist to an accountant to an entrepreneur to a designer. We've got a wide range of profiles of people coming in, and there will be a range of paths for people when they leave. The essence is that the graduates will be able to be, the way I think about it is like bilingual, that they'll be able to have a conversation with the creative team and or the creative side of the business, or And they'll also be able to have a conversation with the commercial side. And so being that bridge builder, being the person who can speak both languages, who can translate, who can, that intersection is such a huge pain point for organizations. And my goal is that the graduates of this program are really equipped to go in and to really catalyze the creative and innovative potential at that intersection. So that can look a few different ways. So people will go, some people will be going into creative functions in large corporations. So marketing, branding, events, communications, PR, innovation, change management, these kinds of creative functions that every company has. So it could be an investment bank, it could be a consumer goods company like Unilever, it could be really any kind of excuse me, any kind of company. They're going to have these functions, and being a manager in that space is one channel where the skill set that this master's degree equips you with would be highly valued. People might also go into creative industries, so advertising, digital media, fashion, tech, music, film, TV. These are roles that are, like a producer kind of role, or in advertising, a client services manager, someone who's able to translate, the client needs, but also then speak to the creative team and make sure that that's functioning smoothly. People will go into innovation consulting, design consulting, where you'll be sort of, and that could be as a subset. The larger consultancies, they have dedicated teams focused on these topics typically, or there's also a range of boutique consultancies that are exclusively focused on this area. And it will also be a path for people exploring entrepreneurship, self-employment, so launching their own venture or their own consultancy. Some applicants are coming in already with a venture that they want to then take to the next level as a result of this program. Other people are wanting to, I want to be an independent brand consultant. The related to this is also family business. So there's a lot of applicants who are saying, I have a family business. It's managed well. It, my, my parents don't really need me to get an MBA, but it's more about what the company needs is an injection of innovation and creativity so that it can stay fresh and competitive in this dynamic landscape. And the goal is that this is a degree that will open a lot of possibilities for you. So it's entirely possible that you will end up designing your own adventure and choosing none of the above, but going in an interesting alternate route. But I think these would be the main categories for our graduates. And you can see that there's some connection with the members of the advisory board as well. Okay, in terms of admissions, so there are some scholarships available. So up to 5 full tuition scholarships from the Puzaz Family Foundation, the UCL East London Scholarship. So this is an excellent opportunity for anybody who's resident if you've been resident of 4 boroughs of East London since 2020, or have done your A levels or GCSEs in East London. That's Tower Hamlets, Newham, Walthamstow, and Hackney. Then this would be it's a full tuition, plus you get £17,000 for your living expenses, and it's a very easy application process. And then there's also UCL Global Masters Scholarship. And then we can, if you have any specific questions, so right now, we'll be moving into time for Q&A. So I'm interested to hear what's on your mind and answer any questions you might have. We also have my colleague Rose here, Rose Cumber from our marketing and recruiting team, who will be able to help answer questions as well. But if anything doesn't get answered today, or you think of it tomorrow, it pops in your brain, you can reach out at this email address and feel free to follow us on um, yeah, any the social media platform of your choice.
Jennifer, thank you very much. If we could just leave it on that page, that would be great, and then we can share the information with all the students watching. And thank you for your time as well. It's been 30 minutes, so it's flown by, but we have had some really good questions come in. I want to go back to a start. Someone actually asked, "What's UCL's take and your take on AI?" And another student has said they've been advised not to let AI take over, artificial intelligence take over, whether it be their application, their learning, and their education. But would you still advise that they use that to aid their education rather than to let it take over?
Yes, I think I mean, we are certainly in new territory when it comes to the range of AI tools that are becoming available. I'm cautiously optimistic about the potential of the tools that are coming online um, for unlocking creative possibilities, right? So I think very soon we're going to see that, people um, can there's going to be new kinds of creative outlets that become democratized and available to lots of people. But the risks are very real. And if we start outsourcing our creativity to AI, then we're really doing ourselves and everyone a disservice. The research has shown that if you that using AI to help generate ideas can be can be helpful in the sense of it can help us stretch our thinking, right? If you ask AI to come up with some crazy ideas, it can then be something you bounce off of. But if but please don't outsource your creativity to AI. That would be the worst outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I reiterate, please use it to help you rather than take you over, whether it be the process of applying, whether it be the education. Um,
Well, I'm going to
question,
say one more thing about that,
yeah,
Garrett. Actually, before you move on, um, I think especially in this program, but I think also for many other programs, I read every personal statement, and what I'm looking for is getting a sense of who you are as a person. If you know, for people who rely too much on AI in that process, it ends up as a generic statement. There's no personality coming through, and that's a real shame, right? Because it might be grammatically perfect, but if who you are isn't coming through, then it's kind of defeating the purpose.
yeah, and one thing I want to talk about, and there's been a lot of talk from you over the last 30 minutes about becoming a leader, becoming in a position of power. Someone has asked if I'm not aiming to become a founder immediately, what are the top three most common job titles graduates realistically secure? And I think that's important because people that will apply for this will be at different stages of their career, won't they? So what would you typically expect that to look like?
Absolutely. So I think and I should say the age range of applicants and the levels of experience vary widely. So there are people who are applying right out of undergrad, and and I'm and yeah, um, and they can have strong applications that are getting offers. And there's also people who are, in their early 30s who are applying.
Mm,
And so for me, that's a really exciting part of the program, that there's going to be this range of experience. I think on average, by the end of it, I think on average, people will have about 2 to 3 years of work experience. But but I'm really open to that whole spectrum. So that the career outcomes are going to really depend on people's starting point. So, but what I would say is, if you're for someone coming right out of undergrad and then coming into this program, there are roles in creative industries like advertising that would be that sort of entry level business type role, and um, of course, in the consulting side, I mean, maybe if it helps if I go back just a few.
yeah.
Um, so in innovation and design consulting, of course, there's the analyst sort of entry level um, consultant type role, which would be relevant in, you know, marketing, events, communications, these creative functions. There are these kinds of entry level roles. So entrepreneurship is absolutely not the primary path or the only path, but some people, a lot of people might be going to like social media manager positions, those kinds of things. So it's going to be really varied, but I hope that gives a sense of the
Yeah, and
kinds of
it will. And
things.
I think in your defense that it is so varied depending on the starting point, like you mentioned. Somebody with a lot of experience who has got a different set of circumstances, who have got perhaps a family in their 30s or 40s, be very different to those that have come out of a bachelor's degree age 21, 22. So I would I would encourage anyone that's not sure to just communicate and talk if you're not sure, whether it be with Jennifer, whether it be from someone in the admissions team, please talk and communicate. Jennifer, next question. I think this is a great question. How much of the program involves live projects, external organizations, or practice-based learning? Is it your stereotypical sit down in a classroom, listen to a seminar for 20 hours a week, and then go home and wish you hadn't done that 20 hours? Or is it very hands-on, quite creative, quite exciting?
Yes, it is absolutely hands-on, creative. There's, for instance, we'll be reaching out to members of our advisory board for challenges that are live for their organizations that students can create projects on and then present to them. And the term three, there's a individual dissertation that students will undertake. And this is a chance to choose a topic of your choice where you get to dive deep. And I'm highly encouraging students to combine this with an internship where what the challenge that you're focusing on is then solving a real life challenge for an organization.
Yeah, and just sticking on the classes and the education, someone's asked how big would the class size be? Mainly asking for seminars, workshops, and projects. What would the engagement with organizations look like in practice? Is the final project 60 credits? If not, would the optional classes, what would they be? So again, you've covered a bit of that already, but if you want to elaborate further on the first point there about the class size.
Yes, class size in this first year is 60 students. And then for subsequent years, it will be closer to 80 students as the class size.
Great.
But there'll be a lot of small group work and um, opportunities to, yeah, I think it will be a really interactive environment, not just kind of leaning
Yeah.
back and
Before we move on to a few more questions, I think it's worth re-emphasizing the location. Obviously, you're in the heart of London. You are, like you mentioned, one of the creative hubs of the globe. You've got the City of London, which is the financial hub of the world as well. How important is that to a student to remember? If you are an international student looking to come to not just the UK but Europe, you're coming to a cultural capital, a financial capital, somewhere that you're going to perhaps want to stay in the long term and enhance your career.
absolutely, yes. I mean, and London, ever since I moved here 11 years ago, for me, London is like a magic lamp. I mean, it continues to amaze me. Anything that you wish for, you can find it here. And so it's really, for instance, my daughter is 5 years old, and we started going to circus school because walking distance from our house is the National Center for Circus Arts, and so she gets to practice in this world-class circus facility as a 5-year-old. Is very sweet, but like these kinds of the possibilities are really endless when it comes to the experience of being in London. Any kind of creative industry is present here, which you can't say, for every, there's very few places that you can, that very few places in the world that can say this
Yeah.
concentration, this diversity of creative companies in one place.
One of the questions that's come in is around how you make sure in a classroom of 60 people that their education is tailored specifically, not just to them, because it's hard, because obviously this is a you're signing up as a student to the education, but how do you make sure that it is tailored and there is that still unique personal experience?
Yes. So we'll be engaged, building the sense of community among the cohort is very important to me. So I'm in the process of designing the induction week activities that will kick off the leadership development component, but we'll also have an aspect of team building. Students will work in peer coaching groups of 5 throughout their experience here. We will um, so I don't think that it's going to be a challenge. I mean, in my own going back to my own MBA experience, there were 70, I think 75 of us in our cluster, and for me that was a really nice number because it's enough people that you're gonna be guaranteed to find the handful of people that you really resonate with and become good friends, and then but also you got a really diverse range of perspectives, and but it's not too big that you can't still have one really interesting like class conversation of people pinging off of each other. So
We are, for those of you that are asking questions all around admissionsy types of questions, we will have maybe a couple of minutes at the very end for that to cover funding, scholarships, accommodation. There's loads of questions around it, and I promise we will get round to it. We'll invite Rose on at the time, and we'll kind of go through that in a bit more detail later. But Jennifer, just kind of keeping on the academic theme, there's many students that have gone, what are you looking for when a student is applying? Because students will think their idea of creativity is different to a said others. So what is it you're looking for specifically on that statement that makes it stand out to you?
yeah, um there's no one like creativity credential. I'm not looking for people who, so even if you're like, oh, well, I'm not the kind of typical creative person, or, I'm more of an accountant, but I have this passion for creativity, or I'm really interested in it, or, this, so if you're focused on quite practical business focused creative problem solving, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to be the kind of um, the poet artist version of creativity. If you are the poet artist version of creativity, that's also welcome and interesting. I would say a few things in terms of the application. I'm looking for some if you if you don't have already some form of leadership experience, it can even be in a student club, or but if there's then I'm looking for leadership appetite. So the sense of, okay, I'm like proactively seeing a problem, willing to take responsibility for being the one to fix it, do it in a different way, bringing people together, making things happen. That kind of initiative and proactivity is something that I think is going to be important in the for success in the program. I'm looking for people who can articulate and demonstrate some kind of interest in the creative innovation type space, and to have that, and then also clearly articulate why this program is going to help them get where they want to go, um, and have that be telling a coherent story.
Yeah, and I want to get back to kind of the very start actually, where there was a great slide about Google and what you thought you engaged with the audience and what the audience thought was important to Google when they were trying to define, what was working, what wasn't, and so on from there. One of the comments I saw and I thought was great was making mistakes. And I think that's key to creativity, isn't it? You will never find out what is right or wrong unless you're willing to make that creative thought happen. How important is it to the students that are watching today and in the future that they're not scared to make mistakes and get things wrong? Because they will, won't they?
100%. It's making mistakes is human, and it's also an essential part of the learning process. So it's so much of creativity is about bringing an experimental mindset, and that's something that I want to really give. I want the students to take away from their experience with us is that try it out, test it, iterate. Start small, see how it goes. Okay, that didn't work, but and I think the from a scientific researcher's point of view, failure is still information, right? If I'm going to make a hypothesis, I'm going to go collect data. Yeah, I hope that it would turn out in the way that my hypothesis is verified and it's really clean and lovely. But if it isn't, and you think back to Amy Edmondson, right? She didn't find what she wanted to find. That was you could see that that's a failure or a mistake. But actually, that was a stepping stone to this incredible body of work that's given us such rich insight over the past few decades.
Yeah, and I think people are always trying to seek perfection as well. So I think there's a lot of people that always say, actually, we're not quite done yet. There are always mistakes. There's always things wrong. There's always things we can improve on, which is important. One of the questions that's come in before we do move on to the admissionsy types of questions is, to what extent does a lack of industry-specific knowledge hinder a leader's ability to implement creative strategies in highly technical environments such as medical or software? Provisions. Your thoughts on that?
It's a great question. And there is a lot of research about the relationship between expertise and creativity. I think it is important to, I think it is important for people on the business side to have a lot of respect for the expertise of I guess, of the experts, whether they're the creative side or in the hospital, the medical side. And that being said, um, just because a doctor is a very talented surgeon does not mean that they're going to be a good manager. It does not mean that they're going to be a good leader. It doesn't mean that they're going to be the one who can, take a failing organization and turn it around into a thriving one. So I would say thinking about the domain of creativity, and if the creativity is coming in the realm of business models and strategy, then yes, you'll need some baseline level of content familiarity with that area. I think you need some humility in terms of honoring and respecting the expertise of the experts. And it does not mean that you cannot provide amazing, yeah, contribution in a management or leadership role.
Excellent. Right, we're going to move on to the more kind of admissionsy types of questions now. Rose, if I can invite you on as well, and we'll guide it towards yourself as well. But Jennifer, I wanted to start with you, if that's okay. We've heard about where the location of the campus is and where you're going to be doing a lot of your learning. You mentioned already your little child, 5-year-old child. You've gone to the Circus Society, whatever it is you said. It goes to show that actually there is something for everyone. But can we talk about where students live when they are here? Apologies, where students live when they are here. Is it on campus? Is it outside of London? Do people travel in? Because obviously London can be quite expensive, can't it? So do people live on the fringes and make their way in? If I can start with you, Jennifer, and then we'll make our way in, okay?
Yeah, I think Rose will probably be in a better position to answer this than I am. But what I can say is that yes, London is expensive, but there are many, many student-oriented accommodation facilities, and including UCL launching our own one close to the School of Management. So, Rose, do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much, Dad. Thanks so much, Jennifer. So yeah, so really exciting. This September, we are launching School of Management student accommodation, which is about a 15-minute walk from the campus in Canary Wharf. So it's in kind of the Docklands area. So it is 15 minutes. You don't need to take public transport. And School of Management students, postgraduate and undergraduate, will have priority access to this accommodation as well. So once you've gone through the application process and hopefully received a conditional offer, you can then begin your process of applying for student accommodation. We also obviously understand that not everybody is keen to live in student accommodation, and that's absolutely fine. And as you said, Gareth, some people are, living at home or living on the outskirts of London, and they're able to commute in for their lectures, seminars, group work, and sessions and things like that as well. So there's different options. As I said, we're based in Canary Wharf, which is kind of like the financial hub of London. And also we're supported by the Elizabeth line, Docklands, and also the Jubilee line as well. So it is really well connected. It's about 15 minutes from London Bridge. So there's lots of different options. And then alternatively, some of our students actually team up and live together in shared houses or flats around different areas of London, which is always nice to see.
And Rose, what should they do? So there'll be students going, I don't really know what to do. Like, I've applied. Is that kind of all done at the start with you, or is that something they need to sort out themselves?
Yeah, so if you do want to live in the UCL student accommodation, so once you've received your conditional offer, your program administrator will reach out to you regarding the accommodation and you can kind of book your room in the accommodation hall. So you're actually able to see who else is on your floor,
Oh, wow.
mix of genders, ages, their programs as well. You will only be living with other postgraduate students as well. So everybody will kind of be of a similar age. Nobody will be studying at undergraduate level. Or if you are choosing to live externally, that's absolutely fine. We would just assume you're not booking a room in the accommodation, and that's fine.
Excellent. So I think we've covered accommodation now. I think it's self-explanatory. Communicate, it's done at source. And
Yeah.
if you do want to find your own, then you're more than welcome to do so. And again, communication's key. Um, Moving on to scholarships and bursaries, Rose, there is a lot of questions going around Chevening, around Marshall Scholarship, Commonwealth, to name a few. How do students go about applying for those bursaries? Is it done again when they apply automatically, or do they need to look at sourcing them externally?
Yeah, really good question. Thanks, Gareth. So any UCL specific scholarships you can only apply for once you have a conditional offer onto the program. So on our webpage, which I will link in the chat as we finish up the session, I'll link to our scholarships available for the creativity program. We do have a few different options. We have our Directors Academic Excellence Scholarship as well. The application form will be launching at the end of this week, early next week for that. So we have scholarships of up to £20,000. We also have the UCL Global Scholarship as well. We have Impact Scholarships. We have a Pizzazz Family Scholarship, which is from a philanthropy institute. And we're just working out the application process for those as well. So, what I would recommend to do if you are super interested in our scholarships, bursaries, and funding opportunities is to register for more information on our webpage so that you receive alerts about the updates to the scholarships, you receive updates to the program or any information you may need. That's the best way to keep in touch. You're on our mailing list. But yes, there is a few different scholarships available. You mentioned the Chevening scholarship, so this is an external one. So if you are an international student, I would recommend if you're working with an agent or a counsellor to speak to them about the application process for this.
And Rose, are people able to apply for more than one program at once? Because there'll be a lot of people that will go, I'm not sure quite what I want to do yet. Is that an option or not?
So you can at UCL, you can apply for up to two postgraduate programs. I would recommend to really spend your time doing your research into your program to make sure the one or two you're applying to are a really good fit for you. So reading through the program pages, the modules, the assessment style, the way you'll be taught, who you'll be taught by, and just really making sure that that program is a good fit for you, your personality, and what you want to achieve from that 1 year study with us. So I would say don't apply to two programs that are completely different because then it may seem that, you're not really sure on the program that's right for you. And this is such a unique and interesting program. So I feel like if you know it's a good fit for you, then that's a really good sign. If you're, unsure on this or something more like finance, I think you need to reconsider and have a look again at your background and your interests and also thinking long term what you want to do career wise. Our finance program will set you up to be an investment banker. This is not what Jennifer's amazing program is offering you. So make sure that you have that clarity to begin with, I'd say. And always feel free to reach out to myself, my team, anyone at the School of
Yeah.
Management if you do have questions. We offer online one-to-one sessions where we can guide you on making that right decision and helping you on that really important decision-making process. But yeah, just to summarize, you can apply for up to two programs. So just make sure you are making those decisions very carefully.
Excellent. And Jennifer, coming back to you, program start September, is it? September 26. Are they 12 monthly cycles or are they January intakes as well? Or is it 26 January 27, sorry, September 26, September 27?
Yeah, it's only September intake. It's 12 months. So the induction week will start the last Monday of September, and then it will go from
Yeah.
there, and you'll have 2 terms of coursework, and the third term is focused on the dissertation.
Excellent. And Rose, just one more question coming in around kind of the visa side of things. It's always very complex because obviously it's out of their hands. It's all in the hands of the British government, really. But once they have graduated, what are their options post-graduation to stay in the UK? Do they need to find a job? Is it 60 days, something like that?
Yes.
Or 90 days? They've got to find something to do, or they need to go home. What are the repercussions there?
Yeah, so as long as you successfully complete your postgraduate studies, you are able to then find employment. I need to double check the 60 to 90 days, so apologies for that. I can send that in the chat, but you are then able to find employment and you are able to stay in the UK for 18 months on what we call a postgraduate working visa. So this is a really great opportunity to get stuck into work in the UK in an industry or job of your choice. And then hopefully, you'll really succeed in this role, prove yourselves and build those great relationships with your colleagues. And then hopefully that company or that firm can sponsor your visa for you to stay long term. Um,
And Jen, oh, sorry, go on, Rose. Sorry.
yeah, I was just going to say we've got loads of support at UCL in terms of if you have any questions about visas, funding, accommodation, any well-being support you may need. We have lots of resources for you, so you do have this available when you start with us.
Rose, I can't believe how much you know that off the top of your head. It's incredible. Jennifer, if I could just finish off with yourself as well, the different cultures and nationality that will be in the classroom, just based upon what we're seeing here on this webinar, we got nationalities from all over the globe. That'll make for a great class, won't it? With different engagements, different ideas and thoughts.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're already seeing applicants from South America, North America, Africa, Middle East, Europe, South Asia, East Asia, um, and obviously including here at home in the UK. So diversity is a core value for me. It's something that's, also the research shows is connected to creativity. So I'm really looking forward to welcoming, a diverse global range of students in the fall.
Superb. Thank you. Jennifer and Rose, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been a great session. Every student that has registered for this will receive a copy of this in their inbox. So if you have asked a question, you're not sure on anything, it might be that you've got a slight concern about coming to London, you've maybe never left your home country, please just communicate with the team. As you can see, Jennifer and Rose, they're very, very open to talking to you and they want you to come as much as you probably want to come also. So please communicate. Everyone watching, thank you very much. If you are looking for the £2,000 bursary that Postgrad Solutions offer, you will get an email about that, about how you can apply for that. 5 students across the globe will win that bursary. So there's a great opportunity for you to apply and to make those fees just a little bit more affordable for you if you are struggling. But for now, thank you very much. A huge thank you from myself and Jennifer at UCL. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.